Carol.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really good this morning. Thank you.
Good. Welcome to the Artful Leadership Interview Series.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be a part of this. Thank you.
Great. I'm really excited to have you too because you're one of the people that I think is doing amazing work. That's just kind of like this secret thing that's happening here at Monarch. And not a lot of people really get to see what you're doing because it's happening in these little rooms with kids. And, a lot of it is, we know the amazing things that you're doing, but it's fun to have an opportunity to showcase that and talk to you a little bit about it.
I feel the same way. I've been listening to a lot of your series, and it is amazing to hear all these little pockets of what people are doing. I think it's super exciting.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you're connecting to the other episodes too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know who you are, but not everybody does. So I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about who you are and where you work and what you're doing that's exciting to you right now.
Okay, yeah. My name's Carol Goldklang-Greenstein, and I am a mom. That is my biggest job still. I have 3 kids. I am an art educator, and I'm an expressive arts educator. And I combine those 2 fields along with my background in being a mom, and especially a mom of a special needs child, at my work at Monarch, which is a dream job, teaching expressive arts to children K-6 impacted by homelessness.
Yeah. And how long have you been at Monarch now?
Well, I actually can't believe it, but I think I'm going on my 6th year. I started as an intern through the Expressive Arts Institute, and I think I worked as an intern for 2 or 3 years, and I've been working as an employee I'll be going on my 3rd year. Yeah, I've seen some of the children. I was looking back at photographs, and I realized I've known some of these children since they were in 1st grade, and now they're in 6th grade. And
Wow.
it's actually incredible. Like when I take the time to look back and see those little faces, It's very powerful for me.
Yeah, and you've had them every year.
I've had them every year, and I'm very consistent in what I do. I work primarily with the whole classroom. Often I mainly push in. I have art on a cart or a table or however I drag all my supplies into the various classrooms. And we have art an hour and a half every week with the teachers there, often participating with the kids in what I'm doing. Sometimes in the art room as they get a little older.
Yeah, but you have this wonderful collaboration that you're doing with all of these elementary and middle school teachers at Monarch, where you're working together with them to create this wonderful expressive arts experience for their.
Yes, I agree. If I think back to, I used to be a classroom teacher back in the 90s in Los Angeles at Westwood Charter School, and it was very collaborative. And I really, thinking back, really thrive in that environment where I'm working with people, bouncing off ideas. And at Monarch, I have 2 great teams. I have the K-6 elementary school teachers they're absolutely incredible. I learn from them every time I'm in the room, and I hope, and I really enjoy the interaction. I think things go best when the teachers are there and they're learning a different side of their students by the type of experiences I provide. To me, it's the most powerful kind of work is when you work collaboratively with others to help the children, or to get to know them better through their art.
Yeah. So what's kind of your big vision for what it is that you are creating for the kids through these classes that you do?
Well, my big vision, really the biggest piece, is for them to get to know who they are. And it really starts very young with tactile experiences in kindergarten, touching clay, touching different materials, depending on the group. I try and bring them what they need to get to experience their body and just see themselves as a separate little human from the other people in the room. And so that's my biggest and my first thing I do is try and help them see themselves through their art and the experiences, the expressive art experiences as an individual, and then as the group, as a community. Who am I here in this group with other people? Who are these other people? What does their art look like? Art is a great unifier. I can give you an example. In almost all my class, take second grade. We make our art, whatever it is. It's a Faith Ringgold, Where Would I Fly? I do that one every couple years. I love her art. She's a former professor of mine. And I have the kids draw themselves flying over anything they want, imaginary, real. And then we all come to a table at the end, and we make a circle, and we look at all the art together. And I'll do a variety of things. I'll have them name their art, maybe give it a name. I'll have them name what all the art looks like together. And that's where the community building happens, because they're able to complement each other, to see each other through the art, not like on the playground where they're annoying each other, or in classroom where it's like they really can get to know each other through the art. And there was one time where we were going around, they'd have all kinds of really cute names, like they name it Colorful Land or Rainbow Sweetie Pie Place. It's totally precious, like it's really heartwarming. But there was one time we were going around and like 3 or 4 of them used the word love. And I realized that sometimes, not always, sometimes that's what's happening, is in curating love through these experiences.
Yeah. Wow. And so powerful when you think about who those kids are at Monarch.
Yes.
Whose lives have been impacted by homelessness in many ways, extreme poverty and domestic violence and transition and abuse and just all the things that kind of come with that experience of homelessness. And here they're in the classroom finding love in the community together and creating that together.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when that happens, it's super powerful, and you can feel it. And it doesn't always happen. Sometimes I walk in and it's chaos and someone will get in a fight. It's not magic every time. In reality,
gotta be real.
I will tell you, I don't think, in all honesty, I can get through a day without one little spark of something special happening if I pay attention.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a big thing like that where we went around the circle, and all the adults, because there are other adults in the room, we all saw it when they were making those little names. And sometimes it's just a little thing, like a kid putting their hand in the sand and just like getting all squishy and soft, or touching like a little pillow or a stuffed animal, or just clay. Clay's magical. They touch clay, the look on the first grader's face. If you pay attention, and I try to pay attention, try and be mindful and see those moments, because then I can see what's working.
Yeah, and you can
and what's meaningful to them.
Yeah. So is there anything in particular that you're working on right now that you're really excited about?
I'm going to be honest right now. I think we all know it's end of the year. Yeah. There's a lot going on. I'm working on getting my own personal child off to college. And so right now I am working on kind of getting through the rest of the school year and envisioning what's next for me. How I work part-time at Monarch. It's a dream job, really, to be able to work part-time, like you said, in a community of children that really need me. I've always thrived on that. I say baby birds. I love that. So how, as I transition from part-time to full-time, what I have to offer and where it's going to be. And right now my heart is definitely at Monarch. It's just going deeper there, making things, just writing about it, talking about it helps. And And then like for the far, far future, do you want me to answer that one? I can. So like that's kind of now it's kind of settling into where I'm at, and really appreciate it, because I will say one thing about that. Really appreciating where I'm at. I'm on an incredible team, and you know that because you're the leader of that incredible team of me, Ann Davis, and Erica Malone. And I'm trying to really appreciate being part of that team, because I've been on a team like that before in my 20s at Westwood Charter School, in an exciting location, an exciting time. I feel like Monarch is where big things are happening in education, in creating, I'm going to say trauma-informed education, but now we're kind of talking about healing spaces, and it's just very exciting. But for my far future, like I said, I am a parent of a special needs child, and I always have to think about the future and making the world a place where she's going to fit in when she's in her 20s. So I do have an idea of creating a space where it's art for everybody, specifically people with special needs. That's in the back, way in the back burner for me.
Yeah, that's kind of like a life dream that's percolating back there.
Yeah, well, my life has been on a very linear direction. The arts have been a player in my life since I was 2 years old. And so right now I really want to sink in where I'm at, but I want to keep writing and visioning.
Yeah, very cool. And kind of taking the next indicated step as it shows up. And
right. And I have some space. I do have 2 grown children pushing out of the nest. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I feel like if I'm a bird, I'm with those eggs right now.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've had fun talking to people about on the show is like, what's your, I think when Erica and Malone and I talked, I ended up calling it like your artist origin story. Like, can you just mention like art has been with you since you were like 2 years old? You know, what is that story of your connection to the arts?
That story is all about my mother. It's all about my mother and my grandmother, and sort of my lineage, which is, I grew up in Los Angeles in the 1970s, and it was a really exciting time to be a woman then in LA, and my mom took full advantage of it. She took us to every free street festival, play, women's symposium. I was all over Los Angeles as a very young child, baby through 5, 6, 7. She told me a story. I don't remember it, but I believe it. When I was 2 years old, she enrolled me at Kendrick Canyon was a co-op preschool in Hollywood Hills, and choice-based, of course. And they're touring me around. I'm 2 years old, and she told me, I sat down at the art table, and she said the teacher said I stayed there for pretty much the whole 3 years of preschool. And art's really been a player ever since. I've used it as my major in college. I used it when I was an elementary school teacher. It was my most exciting part of teaching elementary school, was creating art curriculum. And I've used it in times of hardship. I can think of one breakup in my 20s where drawing trees and roots and really helped me.
Yeah.
And right now, it's just been a gentle forward motion from being 2 years old and having a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And I want to share that with children. And really, I'm really drawn to the very youngest right now. So when I think about myself as 2, like I'm not working with 2-year-olds, but I'm definitely drawn to them. The very youngest, the most vulnerable. I'm working with the most vulnerable, obviously at Monarch in general. Like how it can lift them up.
Yeah.
The way it's lifted me.
Yeah, those important developmental foundational experiences with senses and touch and pleasure and getting to know the world through their fingers. Those are things you do so well.
It's true. When I think back to it, I can't really remember it, even though I have pictures and my mom like kept all my art, but I have sensory experience of it. Like actually putting the paint to paper, the pen to paper, it brings me a sensory experience that I can't describe that, is why I know art is so critical. And it's especially critical to this population and critical to the very youngest.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that I appreciate about you so much as an expressive arts educator, which I think is a little bit different from those who are working in with a more therapeutic approach, is that you're always bringing various artists' work to the students, and you get so excited about artworks or styles or projects or things that find from current artists. And I was just curious if you have any current artists that are inspiring you, or that you've gotten inspiration from for your work with kids that you'd like to talk about a little bit.
Sure. Yes, that's all true. And it's a huge part of, I said I was eclectic, and being an arts educator is just a huge piece of my background. It's the largest. The expressive arts is more recent. I love Diana Garcia. She is an artist who she's a performance-based artist, young woman, and she creates these, they're called guardians. And she takes a creature, say like a lion, and then adds other qualities. She gives it a snake tail or the eyes of an owl. And last year, I've done this every year with the kids. So I always have them create them and draw them. But last year, Ann Davis and I had them sculpt them. Yeah. They made these little guardian creatures, and that combine different qualities of animals that resonated with them. Yeah. Like courage or strength, or like a tiger, has strength. A snake can be sneaky. There's no right answer to it. But these creatures were so amazing. They were amazing to look at. The kids remember this because it was last year, and I've talked to them about it. So yeah, Diana Garcia. And I did write her a letter. I showed her what the kids were doing. She was so excited. She sent me a video message, and so we have a little thing going back and forth. A little bit. We really love each other.
So cool.
And we're so different. And so that's what I love about the arts, because again, it's a we're different age, we're from different backgrounds, we live in different countries. She's in Mexico, so it's really cool.
Yeah, that is so cool. Yeah, and I know that you're pretty connected to the expressive arts community here in San Diego, and was just curious if there's anybody in that community that because I know you're always going to classes and workshops and learning from.
Yes, I mean, Judith Essex Greer is the founder of the Expressive Arts Institute. Wes Chesler, they have curated an amazing environment there. I continue to take her amazing classes. I currently take a journaling class. I've taken dance. Tara Gravis at Arts for Learning. My friend Christy Brown, who wrote my song with me that I sing every day when I teach, and it really is so powerful. So I think about her every time I teach. And that community, it's before I entered the Expressive Arts Institute, I was kind of a stay-home mom. I mean, I was a really creative one, and I was out in the community. I had a great life, but I knew I wanted to go back to work. Got my master's at BU, still was unemployable because I didn't have any San Diego connections. So the Institute has given me a whole family, basically, of artists and expressive arts people who I just love. I feel really lucky to be part of that community.
Yeah. And you were such a wonderful hostess to our big celebration fundraiser in the winter time.
That was fun.
When you did your studies in expressive arts, you already had your master's, so you did like the certification or whatever program.
I did a professional degree. Yes.
Professional degree.
Yes.
And you're working in an educational setting. Are there any like challenges that you've overcome working in a little bit of a different way in the classroom? You
I
feel
don't
like you
think it's
figured
challenges.
out?
I think I've just had to push myself out of the box. I mean, I'm a classroom school teacher.
Yeah,
That, that's really my background.
yeah.
I'm an educator, and expressive arts, you know, is, well, it's specifically, it's low skill, high sensitivity. You're giving people experiences to express themselves, and the skill can be there, but it doesn't have to be.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I've had to push out of my comfort zone in a big way to let things be noisy and loud and messy. And, you know, I tend to run a kind of neat, ordered classroom, and it it's just been all for the better. But has it been challenging? Yeah, sometimes it's crazy challenging, and you're super helpful with that, you know, by providing me suggestions, which sometimes resonate and I can push to them, and sometimes I have to figure where they fit in with who I am as a teacher, educator, expressive arts therapist. One thing is I know I take things, I really think about things before I go into them. It took me, you know,
Yeah.
I took the intro class at the Institute, I think a good 5 years before I signed up for the 2-year course of study.
Yeah.
That really worked for me.
Mhm.
Kind of slow and steady, but it really fits with what I want to happen at Monarch, which is for myself to really see these kids
Mhm.
and see themselves and then each other.
Yeah.
And that's what's the most important to me. And I'm constantly writing, reading, watching videos to make that a reality or to
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah, like studying and really taking all of their different needs into consideration. And yeah, that's I
I
know.
try.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you keep your own artist alive as a busy mom and, you know, someone who's spending some pretty intense days at Monarch? How do you do that?
I take classes at the Expressive Arts Institute. That is right now 100% what I'm doing.
Mhm.
It does a lot of things. It reconnects me with my community. I absolutely love there. And I love their classes. I'm taking a journaling class now,
Mhm.
which is every other week, 2 hours, but it keeps my journaling practice going. So right now my art is really just poetry.
Mhm.
It's drawing in my journal, but it's enough to keep those little threads
Yeah.
alive. And then, you know, maybe in the summer I'll take painting. I need a class.
Yeah.
I need a group. I do not work well. That I, you know, the myth of, it's not a myth, but I'm not the solitary artist. I need people to bounce my ideas off of and prompts, and that's what's exciting, and sharing it. And that's a, you know, kind of goes back to my own classroom. My
Mhm.
most powerful things I do with kids are when the kids share with each other.
Yeah.
They make their art and then they share it. Most of
Yeah, and you get to do that when you're in those expressive arts classes.
yes.
You get to be a part of the buzz of that community and sharing your growth and all of those
Yes.
things.
And I can say last summer they had something called Deep Play where they ran a ton of cool classes. I even taught one like 2 years ago. I don't know if they're doing it this summer, but it's something, if they do Deep Play again this summer, I will definitely participate in that.
Cool. Cool. So we'll have to keep our eyes and ears out and share that if
Hopefully.
you know, as a resource.
Yeah, it's a great way to get to know a lot of cool artists in the community. Get a
Cool.
taste of what they're doing.
Yeah. So you've mentioned an artist that inspires you. You've mentioned some expressive arts people in your community. I'm curious if there are any, like you said, you do research and watching videos. Are there any like authors or thinkers or, you know, people who are giving you some great resources for working with the kids?
Well, you introduced me to Sean Ginwright.
Yeah.
Ginwright, Sean Ginwright. And he's kind of new to me, but I've been watching his videos and I really like his philosophy, which is creating healing environments, which to me is a positive spin on trauma informed, education.
Yeah.
So it's really just, to me, just flipping the language, which we're always trying to do, focusing on the positive. So, and I like his idea of like little healing bubbles or experiences. And it's what I've been doing, but it kind of gave a name for it and a different way to think about it. That every time I go in and do something with kids, I'm giving them an experience. And I'm trying to be very deliberate about honoring that moment, not worrying about how the things come out, giving them that little break from whatever's going on in their lives. And I'm certainly not an expert in him. I just started listening to him, but I would say him, I really like the work of Anat Banyel. She does Moving to Learn, Feldenkrais. My daughter who has Down syndrome, we for years saw a practitioner, Christy Druler-Khan, to help her get to know her body. And I'm seeing with my little kinders first at Monarch, this is a big deal, like where these kids are, and truly all kids, even my own teenager, where they are in space, that they know where they are. And so that her work is about moving to learn, brain work, connecting with movement.
Cool.
Yeah, it's and a lot others, but those are kind of the two I'd say that when you ask the question are on my mind right now.
Yeah. Awesome.
One I'm very familiar with, one I'm just starting to learn about.
Yeah, and I'm super excited because I get to go see Sean speak at the Boost conference next week.
Cannot wait. Yeah.
And I'm going to like a 2-hour masterclass with him, so I'm really excited about bringing his message to Monarch and to the other spaces where I train and stuff. So we'll continue that conversation.
I can't wait because, like I said, I really have just read a couple articles, listened to a couple videos, and everything he's saying is really resonating in a very deep, authentic way that I want to know more about.
Yeah, and it sounds like that sort of those healing bubbles that you're talking about sounds very aligned with Expressive Arts ideas of decentering, of that, like those little breaks, those little bubbles where you just go into the experience, and doesn't have to be about thinking about a particular thing or solving a problem or, but just having these little reset moments. I really like that. I'd love to hear more about that.
I'm actually glad you mentioned decentering, because I will just touch on that a little bit. I don't think I actually used that word. And yeah, that's when the magic happens. And that's when I know I'm doing something right, is when I see the kids either lost in the art or lost in the conversation with each other about something, because like often they're working collaboratively.
Yeah.
Depending on the class, I curate different experiences for different classes, but I know it's right when I see that decentering. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, that just totally being in the flow, in the moment, totally
right.
With it. Yeah.
Right. Not worrying what it's going to come out like, not worrying about how to display it 3 weeks later.
Right.
When I be in the moment and they're in the moment, that's when, again, I feel like the magic of the work comes together.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So I'm wondering if there's anything else that you would like to share about your work, or something that's important to you, for folks that are watching your episode. This is your moment to talk.
Okay. Well, I think I've shared, I feel like I belong to 3 kind of distinct worlds. I belong to the mothering world. I belong to the expressive arts world. And I also belong to the world of special needs parents. And I'm just a huge advocate for inclusion, whether it's of all sorts, people with disabilities, people who are different, have differences, bringing them together. And that is where I hope to put some big attention. And I will say, it's kind of cliche, like this idea of art with heart, but I've been kind of thinking about that little cliche that rhymes. And I really think that is sort of my big mission, You know, I've always liked taking care of things, and I really try and bring my energy and my art to heart, and provide experiences for people to experience creativity.
Yeah.
And so yeah, be creative. That's my message. Find your heart through the art.
Yeah. Art with heart. So if people would like to connect with what you're doing or support you in any way, what would that look like?
Right now, I mean, I have Instagram and Facebook at the Art Garden. The Art Garden. The Art Garden. My little a name I've always had for a business I might create someday. But right now, I do share my work that I do with the kids, never with faces of the kids, but just of the artwork on Instagram. I post about once a week, something we're doing. And I love connecting to the wider world in the internet with art teachers and educators. I think it's really, I've learned a lot.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So at the Art Garden, is there anything that you would like as far as community support for the work you're doing, like connection with artists or, I don't know, supplies or things like that you would like?
Connection with artists. Like I said earlier, when you asked me, you know, who to shout out in the San Diego community, I would love connections with artists in San Diego, especially artists that reflect the population at Monarch, which is very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, San Diego artists, anyone that wants to come in and collaborate, I would love to connect. And of course, Monarch can always use supplies.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, I feel like we covered a lot of ground. We talked about some great stuff. Was there anything that we missed?
I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity for this interview, but just really for you for curating the culture at Monarch, for creating this expressive arts department, which I think is one of a kind. I don't say it lightly when I say I have the same feeling I had back in the 90s when I was a founding writer of the very first group of charters in Los Angeles. It was so exciting. And I feel that at Monarch. I feel like the right people are in the right place at the right time. And I'm excited to be in the room. So thank you.
Well, I'm so excited to have you, and it's such a pleasure to be able to just put a little spotlight on you and what you're doing. Yeah. And because I know you you don't do it for the glory, you know, you're doing it all about the glory. Creating these like just such sweet, exciting and fun and touching experiences for these kids that just eat it up. And so I appreciate everything that you bring to that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Thank you.